Hello, everyone, and welcome on into a postseason edition of the Big Brain. Postseason already, Ryan Coyle. It's incredible that we're already at this point. I was talking with my wife the other day. College football season seems to fly by faster than any other season out there, and it's because it's 3 quick months, and boom, now we're talking about changes. We're talking about coaching changes. Bill Belichick, Rich Rod back at West Virginia. The transfer portal's hitting heavy. And we got a 12-team playoff to talk about. Plenty of bowl games with a massive amount of line movement to talk about as well. You and I are also going up for the Gambler Bowl Challenge, something that I've come close to winning twice now in the last 2 years.
I think I was right behind you in third last year.
Yeah, so the Big Brains have to represent in that competition as well, which there's a bowl game on Saturday night, and we'll get into – I have a rant about the bowl schedule this year. It kind of sucks because of the playoff, but I'll take a 12-team playoff over anything at this point. So let's get right into it. The 12-team playoff, I think it handled itself out pretty. I don't think I have as many complaints as other people at this station do.
Yeah, neither do I. I think that the biggest thing with Alabama kind of just was you had 3 losses. You had and a couple bad losses in there with Vandy and with a really down Oklahoma team this year. At the end of the day, Bama had plenty of opportunities, I think, to do that and to make the playoff, to handle their business, and they just didn't do that this year. They didn't deserve really to be in. Are they a better team than SMU? Potentially, but once again, that goes back to a hypothetical thing. And we talked about it too. I think we laid the situation out perfectly where it was like, all right, if SMU loses on a last-second field goal, if SMU loses on a last-second touchdown drive, if it's a close game or something, they're probably going to give SMU the benefit of the doubt and put them in. And that was really kind of the main thing, the main discussion point. Heading into Sunday morning, we can talk all day about the seeding and whatnot. We'll probably see a major change with the scenario of Oregon, congrats, you're the number 1 team. Your first-round matchup is Tennessee or Ohio State. Penn State, you lost 2 games. You lose to Oregon in the Big Ten title game, and you get the last team in with SMU and then Boise State on a neutral. So that is one of the major discrepancies, but it's the first year of the 12-team playoff. I'm not going to sit here and complain too much about it. I'm just excited to get into these games and look at all these fun matchups we have to break down.
I want to debunk one of the myths that's been thrown out there that Oregon has a far tougher road to the playoff than Penn State. They don't. Let's just put it. I'll just put it as straight as I can say it. They're the best team in the country. They've proven that time after time. And oh, by the way, this Ohio State-Tennessee matchup that we're talking about here, is this the same Ohio State team that just lost to Michigan?
Yeah, I think it's a team that's going to be tough for them to get off the mat.
Like, what big bad Ohio State team are we talking about? And then with Tennessee, yeah, they've got a great defense. But have you seen what Nico Iamaleava has done on the road this year? Not great. And I know it's going to be a neutral site game against Oregon. I get that. But there's no guarantee Tennessee gets out of that game. Actually, I think there's a fairly good chance that all 4 home teams win pretty easily, and the spread suggests that. We'll get into that in a little bit. But if this big, bad Ohio State team is what is considered a threat to you as Oregon right now, I mean, I would be more scared about Arizona State than I would Ohio State at this point. And look, it could be a 1-game thing where Michigan's just it mentally has Ohio State's number, and Ohio State could look great against Tennessee. But Oregon also played Ohio State, and they beat Ohio State. They went toe-to-toe with this multi-million-dollar roster that the Buckeyes have. So why should they be scared of a potential semifinal matchup with Ohio State? I don't think they should. Now, look, Penn State, they've still got to win an extra game to get to the final. Being able to only play 2 games to get to the final is huge. I think Oregon benefits from that, and so do the other 3 teams in there. I wouldn't count out Boise State against Penn State. Boise State went toe-to-toe with Oregon. They have who's probably going to be the Heisman Trophy runner-up in Ashton Jeanty at minimum. Who knows? We might get the biggest surprise we've seen in a while on Saturday night. But when you look at this across the board, is it really that tough for Oregon? Should we really feel bad for Oregon? They just went 13-0, and they put up every single drive. It looked like they were unstoppable against Penn State. They can do that against Ohio State. They've shown they can do that against Ohio State, and they can do that against Tennessee. Plus, I think if you were to power rank the quarterbacks, I know we've kind of poo-pooed the list of quarterbacks this year in college football, but if you're the power rank the quarterbacks 1 to 12, a lot of people are putting Dylan Gabriel at 1 just because of experience and the weapons around him. So I don't feel bad for Oregon.
Yeah, I'm not saying I feel bad for them, but I do definitely think their path is tougher than Penn State's. Like, I'm taking Penn State. I think Penn State has the easiest path to the semifinals. And for Penn State, I think that would be a wildly successful season. Will they get there? Will they slip up? Who knows? But Penn State does beat the teams that they're favored against, and they're a favorite against SMU, and they're going to be favored against Boise. And I just think that they have a cleaner path. And even in the loss last week, I thought their offense was encouraging. Like, I was worried that they couldn't go toe-to-toe in a shootout. They fell short against Oregon. But if they were to get into that game again against another team, I wouldn't be as scared. Like, I was kind of worried that they wouldn't be able to move the ball like they did in that the Ohio State game. But Oregon, I think we saw they're clicking on all cylinders right now. Does this kind of month off, does that hinder them a little bit? They won't be playing again till the 1st, so that's something I think to monitor. But I definitely think that matchup of either Tennessee or Ohio State, because I do think when either of those teams is playing at their peak, either of those teams could go on a run and win the entire thing. I really do think that. When you look at Penn State in the bottom part of the bracket, I think it's a little bit more of an easier path, in my opinion. But I do think you have to go into this with looking at Oregon like, okay, they are the team to beat. With Tennessee and Ohio State, though, lingering there, it's not a sure thing. And I think that would be a pretty close spread, maybe like 3.5 to 4 points on a neutral field potentially.
So let's talk about the futures as a whole. Oregon and Texas right now at DraftKings Sportsbook. Now this is Wednesday night, where we got plenty of time to go. It is weird too, because to get to the breaks real quick, it's a normal bowl schedule for the 4 seeds, because you're playing the week of you're playing either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. So the coaches will be able to adapt to that part. But what we're going to find out in the quarterfinal, is does the team, kind of like in baseball, does the team that plays the 20th or the 21st, are they fresher because they just played 11 days ago? Yep. I think that's the more important thing to watch than saying, hey, Oregon, Georgia, Boise, Arizona State have X amount of time off, because that's just the normal time off to a bowl game if you're a successful program anyway. So that, I think that little wrinkle, is it like the baseball playoffs where the wild card teams get hot? I know it's only one game, but you're still playing that one extra game between championship weekend and New Year's. Who knows if that actually ends up playing a factor. But anyway, Oregon and Texas are both plus 360, tied right now at DraftKings Sportsbook to win the title. Georgia plus 450, Ohio State plus 475. Then you have Penn State at 600, Notre Dame at 800, and then there's a massive drop-off. Tennessee at 2,500, Indiana 4,000, SMU 4,500, Clemson 5,500, Arizona State and Boise State, the two teams that get the buys, the longest odds to win the title at plus 6,000 and plus 6,500. I'll phrase it this way. We all know who the favorites are here, Beef. Does anybody from Tennessee down have any type of shot to win the national title? Is it worth even exploring a long shot bet on the futures board?
I do think Tennessee, because I think that they have the winning formula. And part of me, and it might just be because I'm a bit more of a Nico believer potentially than some, but I do think that Tennessee, we saw kind of shift a mode in their offense of, like, after the first 3 to 4 games, they really leaned on the run, and they made this a run-heavy team. And you can say maybe that's because they don't trust Nico, or Heupel's kind of mindset was just get us to the dance, and then we're going to open up the playbook and see what we can really do with our passing game, because the defense is good enough. The running game is more than good enough, the 9th best rushing attack in the country this year. Can Nico really just move the chains on 3rd down and make a couple big throws? And we saw it in the Alabama game, and that was the difference. they had 5 to 6 plays deep that Nico missed a couple, but then he hit a few later down the stretch when it mattered most, and that really helped them win the game. It's going to be a tough path. Certainly, you're going to have to get past Oregon, and Ohio State won't be a cupcake either. What Ohio State team shows up? Is this a dead-in-the-water Ohio State team, or is this a pissed-off, motivated Ohio State team? I think that is going to be the telltale sign, but I do look at that matchup of, all right, Tennessee, I think that they match up well against Oregon and could certainly go toe-to-toe with them. And then from there, I think that they can play with just about anyone. So it's going to be a tough first 2 games, certainly, to get past. But from there, I kind of like their path and potentially to hoist that trophy at the end. But Indiana, I'm not looking at. SMU, definitely not. Clemson, no. Boise, does Genty go nuts? Always a possibility, but they just were in a dogfight with Wyoming about 2 weeks ago. San Jose State just like 3 weeks ago. And Arizona State, you can make an argument, maybe the hottest team in the country right now. But I just think once they match up against some of these big boys, they'll get exposed a little bit.
I'll buy Arizona State stock. I will. I look at the 6 teams that we just mentioned at plus 2,500 or higher. I want to believe in Tennessee, right? And to me, it's just, and this is like the oldest college football cliche in the book, freshman quarterback on the road. Mm-hmm. And I've seen, and he's not a freshman, he's a first-year starter. And I've seen this happen so many times, but also I've seen the results on the board. That Oklahoma game, Heupel just tightened up with it, with his play calling on the road. That was an ugly win. The Arkansas game, I'm not sure exactly what they were doing. So there are some holes to poke in Tennessee away from Knoxville. And how did they react in the Horseshoe at mid-December? I don't know. But what I do know with Arizona State is these guys believe, and that they are riding the biggest high right now. And they have an all college football running back in Cam Skattebo, who you could argue should be in New York.
Should be in New York for sure.
As a Heisman Trophy finalist, we don't need to see another quarterback there because we know the quarterbacks aren't going to win. I think they could beat Texas.
Yeah. I
could convince myself that they could beat Texas. And the reason why I say that is because they can control the ground game. Their defense is good enough. And Levitt's come into his own, the quarterback as well. I would actually look, I don't know if I would take them to win the entire thing, but I think Arizona State at plus 310 to make the playoff semifinal is the smartest bet you can make out of all the long shots. Look, we're talking about these teams that are going to hit the road from the start, because you look at SMU, great season, but they're plus 425 to make the semifinal, have to play a road game, and then have to play Boise State in a game that would be pretty even. Tennessee plus 800 to make the semifinal, which is wild to think because they're a very good team. But if you look at the teams they play Ohio State and Oregon. So I think out of all those long shots, I think the team that has the best chance of at least making it to the semifinal is Arizona State. Now they're going to be a significant dog in any matchup with Oregon. But what happens if Ohio State beats Oregon, right? You're projecting what could happen. Okay, Ohio State played Oregon, a 1-point loss out in Eugene. Do they recalibrate? That's the biggest question mark about the entire first round, is how does Ohio State recalibrate after the Michigan loss? Because if they don't and they fall flat, it's Ryan Day is probably gone.
Yeah.
Belichick's not there anymore, though. So I don't know if that changes the process. But I think Arizona State's got a decent enough path. I don't know about Boise because I believe in Penn State a little more than others do. I think Georgia, Notre Dame has a potential to be an all-timer. I think that's what everybody's waiting for. We're big Coach Sig guys here, but we want Notre Dame in Georgia. Give me the brand names, New Year's Day night in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. It could be a classic college football game for the ages. And I want to see that. So I think out of long shots, I will ride with my guy, Cam Skattebo.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there on Arizona State. The one concerning part to me, how do they go up against an SEC defense there in Texas.
Yeah.
Like Texas, I think we can make an argument, maybe the best defense in the country. The Texas defense isn't why they lost that SEC title game, that's for sure. And even the first matchup, when Georgia had 30 points, Texas turned the football over 4 times in that game. So the Texas defense there, I think Quinn Ewers is going to be on a quick leash as well in this playoffs. That's something to watch. But to me, the most interesting thing in this first round is Ohio State. Because have we even like seen Ohio State at their best? Like, was Indiana the best that they've been? They didn't look great against Penn State. Penn State, I think, lost that game more so than Ohio State won. And then the Oregon game, that was a good game back and forth down to the wire. And Ohio State slips up there on the road. But have we seen the best version of this Ohio State team? Will they ever get there? How do they bounce back from this game against Michigan is going to be the telltale sign. Like, what does Ryan Day have to do to get this team back up off the mat from that game? Because if Ohio State goes up against anyone, there's a good chance that they're the more talented team each and every game throughout this playoffs. I think we can make an argument. But what version of this Ohio State team shows up? And that's going to be the determining factor, because they're certainly good enough to win it all. But are they even going to want to be there? They have something to play for sure. But this is still kind of a dead team walking in my eyes.
If I'm Ryan Day, I show them tape of the Indiana game.
Sure, how good you can be.
Yeah, and use that as the motivating thing. Now, I don't know how good of a motivator Ryan Day is.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as one.
No, he doesn't. He kind of strikes me as somebody who seems pretty defeated. I mean, look at the body language tells me a lot of things. And the way that he kind of reacted, or lack of thereof, as the Michigan planting the flag fiasco, which, by the way, the felony, it's a soft move. Go just beat your rival. Just beat your rival, and you don't have to make it a felony.
That
unbelievable.
Is insane.
Charmin soft is what that is. But yeah, I don't know if Ryan Day is the ultimate motivator. I mean, I know it's a completely different situation, and that they lost so many players after the Michigan game last year, but they were uninspired in that bowl game.
Yep.
They put up 3 points. They couldn't move the ball. Devin Brown was playing quarterback. And to me, that's something that the head coach should kind of take by the throat there and say, hey, look, we're shorthanded, but we're going to man up and we're going to play football. They're just completely uninspired. Nobody wanted to be there. It's different because it's a playoff game. You're at home. Again, wildly different scenario. But do you trust Ryan Day to motivate this Ohio State team?
And also that crowd. Like, just say Tennessee does what Indiana did in that game and march right down the field, go up 7-0. That crowd is booing, and the entire team and the coaching staff, they're tight from there on out. Like, they know, like, here we go again. This is the end for us. Like, that is a big thing as well. Like, the Ohio State start, I think, the first quarter, the first half, whatever you want to look at it, that is going to be a very, very big kind of thing that could determine a lot of potential outcomes for this playoff.
I look at the other 3 hosts. So Penn State, say what you want about Franklin's record against top 5 teams, but I would trust him to motivate my team right now over Ryan Day. I don't know if I would trust him to coach my team over anybody against an opponent of this stature, but he'll get the team up. They're doing a whiteout. They're going to intimidate SMU. Plus, it'll probably be like 10 degrees in Happy Valley, because that's the way it is in December in central Pennsylvania. Notre Dame is Notre Dame. They're playing an in-state rival, too. I think that brings a little extra juice to that matchup. And I don't think I have to worry about Texas being up for a big game. And look, they've been to the playoff already under Sark and Quinn Ewers. Lost last year. So there's your motivating factor right there. With Ohio State, man, it's just what do you got? Because
even if you win a national championship, is that still good enough in the fan base's eyes?
Might not be, right?
Yeah,
that's the craziest thing. And this is college football in a nutshell. You could go on and win a national championship, the first iteration of a 12-team playoff. So you have to win 4 games in Ohio State's case. And some of your fans might say it's not good enough. Fire the coach. You haven't beaten Michigan in 4 years. College football is just so beautiful like that, isn't it?
Yep.
Now,
that's the difference.
Do any of the road teams in the first round, we don't have to talk about motivation because they're all going to be pounding the rock and looking at they're pounding the table in these meeting rooms and saying, look at how big of an underdog we are. Dabo is going to pull his self-righteousness bullshit and be like, hey, look at me. I'm sick of Dabo. I don't even want to mock Dabo at this point. Like, Dabo was good. It was a good college football character when he was winning and at the top, or he was the lovable loser because Clemsoning was a thing for the longest time, right? But now we've gone over the hump. You know, we started with Clemsoning and lovable loser, and maybe one day they'll do it. Then they did it, and now they're like cresting back towards the middle of the pack, and Dabo's doing this whole us against the world crap. Nobody believed in us. Nobody wanted us in the playoff. Yeah, nobody wanted you in the playoff because you didn't belong in the playoff.
Yeah.
So to me, that kind of like the whole self-righteous nonsense from Dabo is just, I'm done with it. I hope Texas beats them by 1,000. But from a motivation standpoint with SMU, this is a chance to get the biggest win possibly in program history, right? Yep. Nobody is going to pick them, I don't think, at least to win outright. Tennessee, they've got a good enough team to go into Columbus and win. I don't think they'll be unmotivated. And then Indiana, I mean, you're going to tell me Coach Sig isn't going to have that team at least ready to go mentally. So I'm not concerned about the motivation for the 4 dogs, but what I'm concerned about is these point spreads, man.
Yeah.
We have a 7.5 point spread in favor of Notre Dame and Ohio State. Penn State's an 8.5 point favorite. Texas is an 11 point favorite. These spreads are big, but I actually think the way to attack these games potentially is with the totals, because we see 3 totals in the low 50s. Tennessee, Ohio State's at 47. I actually think here's the way I think. If you think these teams are as good as they are and as good as the numbers suggest on the spread, there might be a better opportunity for you to clear with an under, especially in Texas's case, against Clemson, who we know has a decent enough defense, but they've also proven they can't move the ball against SEC teams twice. 3 points against Georgia, 14 points against South Carolina. I think at least starting off with the game with the biggest spread, and we don't have to get like too deep into these yet, but I think the under in the Clemson-Texas game has a lot of intrigue to me at 51.5. You just saw Texas play a defensive battle with Georgia. They have no problem playing that type of game. And I don't know if Quinn Ewers can lead Texas on a 38-45 point win in the playoff. And I don't think Clemson can move the ball on an SEC defense. So I think at least from that one specific perspective, the under, if you think these defenses are so good and the margins are going to be that wide, maybe the unders are your play. Cold football as well, SMU from Texas. I know I get it. It gets cold in Texas, but doesn't get 10 degrees cold in if that's going to be the forecast. And if Notre Dame's defense is as good as advertised, I think you have real opportunity here with these totals in the 50s. I'm surprised they're that high to really. I know betting unders isn't a fun thing to do, but betting unders in the first round of the playoff may be the right thing to do.
The way I'm kind of looking at these, the first round matchups, like, and I feel like this is going to be the popular play. Like, you see this all over social media. And in my mind, I'm thinking like there's got to be at least one upset. There's going to be one of these games that kind of hits us where we're not expecting. If you parlayed all 4 favorites on the money line, it's plus 204. I feel like that is going to be the most square play that everyone's doing. Like with these point spreads and everything, there's got to be an upset in there. And I think you kind of got to find it. Which one has a chance to be that outright upset? And Joe, I think we'll both say the same thing. You have to look at Tennessee in that spot against Ohio State and say that that's the upset most likely to happen.
I would, yeah.
Like if you had gun to your head, you had to pick one. I would think you'd have to pick Tennessee in that spot.
I'd pick Tennessee. Yeah. SMU,
there's nothing
SMU.
that like you love. You absolutely love, and I feel like there can't
No,
be something that you absolutely love with it being a 7.5 point spread. Like Indiana, like we saw what they looked like against their one real test, and they got ran off the field. SMU, we've talked about it a million times, but James Franklin wins those games, and SMU going up to Happy Valley, who knows, it could be a snowstorm that day. Don't think that's a very good environment for them. And Clemson, I just quite frankly don't think they belong on the same field as Texas.
I don't think they're good.
Yeah, I don't think they're good either. So, like, are you telling me we're going to get chalk in the first round? I feel like the first ever 12-team playoff, there's bound to be one pretty crazy upset in this first round.
I wish Mark Henry was with us tonight because what I'm about to say is probably a little salacious. But if gun to my head and you gave me the 4, I'd take Coach Siggs in Indiana.
Really?
I just
the one biggest thing I think with that matchup is like they're both the same weather type team, same environment. Like I don't think either of their styles are going to be kind of impacted in that one. And you don't look at Notre Dame as some crazy home field advantage either.
I'm not going to sit here and say Indiana is going to win the game outright. But if you were to ask me to rank the 4 dogs, I'd put Clemson at 4, SMU at 3. Clemson because I don't think they're in the same universe as Texas. And I think Penn State, like you said earlier with the offense, with what they showed in the Big Ten championship game, I think there's enough there to build on. And their defense is really good. I think it can shut down SMU. With Indiana, to me, it's kind of just a blind confidence they have in their group.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more of a gut feeling for me on that pick. I think Tennessee is going to be the most popular underdog.
And it's an 8-9 game. It should be.
It's an 8-9 game. I will sit here and say this right now. I think Ohio State wins by the largest margin of victory.
That surprises me. I just think Tennessee's built to win in what kind of ever environment. It's going to come down to the quarterback. I might just be higher on Tennessee, or it might just be I'm fully out on Ohio State after that loss. I think that is just such a demoralizing game. And for everything that has happened after, their freaking legislation passed a thing that it's a felony to plant a flag after that game. Like, that's not the most like sore loser BS that's in college football right now than like what is. Like, I think even Ohio State players have to be like disgusted by that whole thing. I just think they're a dead team walking. Like, it's going to be a tough thing to do and show up. Like, I would be very interested to see how their practices have even been over these past week or so.
But I think everything you're saying is absolutely spot on, right? But we're talking about what the biggest surprise of the playoff might be in the first round. Yeah. I don't think it's an upset. I think Ohio State might just win by 20 points against Tennessee. I think because, and look, everything we said about Ryan Day as a motivator and as a head coach is still true. We're still very unsure of what he can get this team to do. But if he unlocks that and Will Howard plays competent, and that defense, which still has a ton of studs on that roster, if they take advantage of a young quarterback at home, they can do what they did to Indiana against Tennessee. And that game is not even going to be remotely close. And then we're all going to sit here and say, oh, well, that's the Ohio State team we expected. Ohio State's in a lose-lose situation, I think. Because if they win by 20, like I think they might, they're going to be like, well, where was that version of Ohio State against Michigan? Yep. They're still going to get criticized.
Whereas they lose out all year, really.
Right. And if they lose outright, well, I mean, get your pitchforks out, right? So I think the biggest surprise of the playoff is that Ohio State wins by 3 touchdowns.
Okay. I'll mark it down. Well, I'm sure we'll go more in depth and make official picks next week, but I think Tennessee is going to go into Columbus and win that one. I think, especially up front, if Ohio State tries to play the same kind of style that they did in that Michigan game and basically win in the trenches, Tennessee's not the team you want to do that against. I think there's a legit chance that we see Tennessee in the national title game on January 20th, I think there's something else
That's
important going on that day as well.
that's weird saying January 20th for the national championship game.
Yeah.
That's very, very weird. It's a new normal. So let's get into some other things. We'll get into our full official picks next week. Hopefully the three of us are all together in one spot to give all of that. But there's a lot of interesting, I'd say to say the least, coaching news coming out of college football, even today, mainly. North Carolina hires Bill Belichick.
Who?
West Virginia hires this young up-and-coming guy, Rich Rodriguez. Sounds like he's never gotten a shot at a power conference team and was hungry to get that spot. What do we make of both? I guess these are the two biggest jobs out there in this coaching carousel, North Carolina and West Virginia, which kind of speaks to the state of the coaching cycle. But what do you got on both of them?
The Rich Rod thing is kind of cool for me because when I first really started getting into college football was that Steve Slayton, Pat White team. I remember watching that with my dad. I think 2005, 2006-ish, that range. But that's when I started getting into it. So that's a little bit of a nostalgic kind of cool throwback moment. And
they were a great NCAA 04 team, by the way.
Those Jacksonville State teams, for those sickos out there, they've been a fun watch over the past couple of years. The go-go kind of offense that they've been running. If he can get a mobile quarterback in there and find a guy with some legs, maybe a fun guy out of the portal, that could be a really fun team to watch going forward. In a Big 12 that we saw that's wide open. I mean, hell, Arizona State projected to finish last this year. They're in the college football playoff. Colorado last year with their bounce back. That is a wide open conference. And I don't think it would be the craziest thing to see West Virginia go from what they finished this year, 6-6, to a potential 9-3, 10-2 next year. So that is a cool thing. And then obviously Bill Belichick, I think I tweeted it when the news officially came out. I was like, imagine reading this tweet this time last year, like Bill Belichick at North Carolina. Like that's not even a alum there. Like I think it said his dad coached there back in the 50s. So not a super big connection, but it's going to be interesting. It's a swing for the fence. I'm interested to see if there is an official coach in waiting type thing with the Sun. I also saw the original report was 3 years, $30 million. Now it's saying 5. I'm not sure if there was some options attached to that, but Bill Belichick at the college level, it's going to sell seats. And I saw DraftKings already put up 6.5 for the win total. Are we buying into the Tar Heels as next year's Indiana Hoosiers?
This is either going to be a playoff team in 3 years,
or next year.
Or it's going to fail spectacularly.
I do agree. It's a boomer bust type of operation, I think.
I don't see any happy medium with this Belichick hire. I'm not sure. I mean, look, he's smart enough. Well, he'll get the right guys in place, right? He'll have, I think Mike Lombardi's coming in to be his GM. He'll have plenty of. I wouldn't be surprised to see Joe Judge on that staff. He's got college football. He's got college football experience. So he'll have enough experience on that roster or on that coaching staff to make these guys ready for the pros. But can you win in college football? It's one thing to develop these players into professionals, but it's another thing to deal with the NIL, the recruiting. Is it just as easy as I'm Bill Belichick, I've won many, many Super Bowls, come play for me? Is it that simple? Or does it take a certain type of player? Because we saw this in the NFL, is a certain type of player, maybe it's an experienced player. Maybe they hit the transfer portal hard and that's the way they refurbish this program. But it takes a certain type of player to play for Belichick.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, how many of these dudes really want to go and play for Belichick? Because, like, even the past few years, you've seen what the Patriots were under him. Like, these guys that are going into college now really aren't mostly, at least, your Tom Brady dominance. Like, their main kind of football watching years have been these past few years where they've been really down. And do you want to go and enjoy your time in college, or do you want to go and be military style with Bill Belichick? And I think that's something that he's going to lay down with them as well, because he said it on McAfee's show the other day, basically like this is going to be an NFL program, an NFL pipeline, type of
Right.
thing. Does that translate to success on the football field for you, or are you just saying you want to get guys ready to go to the pros?
Are they going to stick with Max Johnson?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, who's the quarterback? And I remember he like snapped his leg in that first game of the year versus Minnesota. But I envision. Do you envision Josh McDaniels going there? Like, could that be an interesting spot for a quarterback out of the portal, like a pro style?
I could see him just getting all the entire band together, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I'm expecting McDaniels to go there and be the OC.
I would be surprised if McDaniels, Patricia, Judge, Steve Belichick. Like I think they're going to get the band together, but I also think they're going to make some interesting hires, maybe in like the lower tier positions that are college football guys that have been through the ringer in college football and are able to bring that to the program as well. I think honestly, it all depends on who their quarterback is next year if they have success, because Max Johnson isn't it.
No.
He's not it. Like you have to. I know he's going through a serious injury recovery with the leg injury he suffered, which was incredibly brutal to watch. But he's not it.
Yeah.
He wasn't it at Texas A&M. He wasn't it at Carolina. So who's that first guy? And by the way,
You
your
gotta move
biggest
quick on this stuff too.
right, because your biggest rival, Duke, just landed Darian Mensah from Tulane, who went into the portal yesterday
Yeah.
as one of the most regarded players in the portal. You're not Malik Murphy,
That's the thing that crossed my
right?
mind first. And I did just read there was an agreement as well for the NIL package for the football
To be
program.
increased.
Went from 4 million to 20 million. I don't know how
Yeah.
accurate that is, but that is going to be what, top 5, top 6? Who knows after this year?
Right.
That thing's probably all going to expand, but I think off of this year, the highest one was Texas at 22, Ohio State at 20, and then there was a few in like that 18, 19 range. But North Carolina is kind of making themselves a major player there, and why not in the ACC? You should, if you're a North Carolina supporter, you should go all in kind of on these next 3-4 years, whatever, see what you can get out of Bill Belichick and maybe even a berth in the college football playoff.
So I'm scrolling through the transfer portal right now with quarterbacks. Hold on, let me get the actual right one up. That's not 2024, but you already had
Jackson Arnold went.
Jackson Arnold is in the portal. Did he commit anywhere?
No, it's rumored heavily Mississippi State because of Levy.
Oh, okay, that would make a lot of sense. Yeah.
So I'm looking at Auburn as well.
So you have Malik Murphy from Duke, who had a decent season, led Duke to 9 wins, but I think they kind of just pushed him out, I guess, because Darian Mensah was their target, which is, I guess that's the way college football goes at this point. Luke Kromenhoek from Florida State is kind of the prized possession, but he's an unknown quantity of what he's done in college football. And do the other big programs that need a quarterback come calling for that? And then Connor Wegman's in the portal, Miller Moss is in the portal. And
Miller
Jackson
Moss,
Arnold.
I could see as a fit there.
I could see that as well.
Especially if McDaniels goes.
But it's not like the most inspiring.
Preston Stone?
What?
Preston Stone?
That would be intriguing as well.
I could see that being one.
I guess the question is, in that regard, is Preston Stone any good?
I think he's pretty solid. I mean, even last year they were good, but I think Jennings just kind of took them to a different level. But it's also like, is the top quarterback going to go to North Carolina?
Right. That's what I'm concerned about with him. I think West Virginia is going to be an interesting thing to see what they do in the portal as well. Does Rich Rod bring his Jacksonville State guys with him?
Yeah, that could be.
Like Signetti did with James Madison. I think Charles Huff is doing that with Marshall to Southern Miss, which makes their bowl game even more fascinating. Before we kind of get out of here, West Virginia, speaking of teams that are changing coaches, there's 2 bowl games before next Wednesday. Not really the most eye-popping games, but still college football bowl games, and all bowl games get treated the same way here, especially with our bowl mania. You have the Frisco Bowl with Memphis and West Virginia. Memphis, it's going to be Seth Hennigan's last hurrah against a West Virginia team in flux. The number's already gone up to 4.5. I'd get, if you can get that before it reaches 7, which it might, I would bet Memphis right now. They're going to be more than motivated to send their 4-year starting quarterback out with a win. West Virginia in flux. They're one of their best linebackers, Josiah Trotter, the son of Jeremiah Trotter, just hit the portal today. And how many times have we seen it, teams going through a coaching change just kind of really don't show up in bowl games? And a Tuesday night on a soccer field in Frisco, Texas, I don't think West Virginia is going to show up, to be frank. And even if they did with a full team, I think Memphis is better than them. I'm pretty high on Memphis. And then Saturday night, they kind of snuck this one in on us. The Salute to Veterans Bowl. Beef, you got anything on South Alabama or Western Michigan?
I have nothing right now, but I did see this morning that South Alabama, I want to say he was like the freshman of the year in the conference. Is the name escaping me right now? It might be Gio Lopez. I want to say it is. But he was a star quarterback in that conference this year, and it was reported that he was most likely going to transfer. He said he's staying. So that's a type of thing where, okay, coach back, quarterback's back. This is another opportunity for us to go all in and really build some momentum going into the following season. So Action Network, shout out to them. They do a great job with like a injury tracker and opt-out tracker. I'd say you go over and keep a close eye on those. But I agree. You should be, if you're going to be betting these bowl games, look at them now, because over these next 3 to 4 days, that's when you're really going to see a lot of guys, if they haven't already, hit the portal, and some of these lines are going to start moving. So if you like something and you know a guy's staying or you know a guy's leaving for an opposing team, hop on them now. And I think that's definitely the way to look at it. With our Gambler Bowl Challenge on ESPN, they put out the lines, and once those lines are out, they're out. Like, so they stay there.
Which I hate.
Yeah, which I don't like as well, but more power to us if we can go back and edit those as well.
So here's the one distinction in this matchup that I think to point out. South Alabama, Lopez is staying. Their leading rusher, Fluff Bothwell. What a name, by the way. The running back is in the transfer portal. And this, I think, is where it comes into, at least into this matchup. Western Michigan allows 186.3 rushing yards per game. That's a tough one to replace when you have your leading rusher in the portal. Lopez is a rushing quarterback, and they do have another running back, Bullock, in there that ran for 700 yards. But you're without your number one running back. That could be a little bit of not a disaster, but kind of an interesting spot to be put in. I would actually look at the under in this game. I don't trust Western Michigan's offense as much. I think South Alabama does win this game if you're betting a side. Maybe that's the way to go. But Western Michigan's games have trended under lately. And if you look at the total of 57.5, well, outside of last week or 2 weeks ago, South Alabama and Texas State playing to 45-38, there's been some low-ish scoring games. Southern Miss 35-14. By the way, Southern Miss, one of the worst teams in college football. They played Louisiana Lafayette to a 24-22 game. I think this is a team in South Alabama that their style, and look, they've played a MAC team already this season in Ohio, and that ended up being 27-20. So I think you look at maybe similar teams, similar matchups. I just don't know if South Alabama's offense is consistent enough without their top rusher to get to the 57.5. So I would actually take the under 57.5 in this game. We could still see points. Could be like a 30-24 type game. But I think losing your leading rusher against a team with some major weaknesses in rush defense kind of counterbalances your advantage in the matchup.
Yeah, that's as deep as probably.
That's your Salute to Veterans Bowl breakdown from the big brains. That's all I got for you. Real quick, Army Navy.
True. Got to touch on Army Navy. What are we looking at? I'm not even looking. I'm gonna guess Army -7 over
6.5.
under 39.5.
39.
Ooh,
Look at you.
okay. Taking Army. That was a very impressive performance they had last week against Tulane. I like them to cover that number. I forget what the trend is on the total in terms of the years in a row that it's gone under. I was at the game 2 years ago in Philly that it actually went over, needed overtime in that one. And last year I had the over, I think, and I got a push on a last second run out of the back of the end zone safety. So that was
That's
a fun way
right.
to celebrate Army Navy last year. But yeah, give me Army -6.5 in that one. Very impressive season from them. Bryson Daly, he should have been in the Heisman discussion, I think, as well a little bit. Missed a game, kind of hurt himself a little there, but yeah, Army spectacular year. I think that they wrap it up with a 10-point victory on Saturday afternoon.
Real quick fun facts. So Army has won 6 of the last 8 meetings with Navy. The winning team has only scored more than 21 points on 2 occasions dating back to 2012. Navy scored 34 points in the 34-7 win in 2013. Navy also won 31-7 in 2019. Well, both of those totals would have gone under the total of 39.5 that's set for this game, which I think is a little high for
Yeah, it is a high
this
number.
game itself. Yeah, give me Army, and I'd probably lean the under as well. This game is typically very low scoring. Look, 17-11, 20-17, 17-13, 15-0 are just your last 4 scores in this rivalry. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be close. It's Army Navy. It's always fun, but I think Army is the side to pick. And oh, by the way, Army in their bowl game, they're playing Marshall. That's going to be a big pick for me as well. And Navy, I look to both bowl games. Navy's a 9.5-point dog against Oklahoma. Keep that in the back of your mind for next week. I think we got something there. I think we're looking at dogs for bowl season. The midshipmen might be one, but for now, I like Army. So that's it for our Big Brains preview here with the college football playoff right around the corner. Next week, myself, Ryan Coyle, and Mark Henry Jr. will break down each of the 4 games. And oh, by the way, there's more bowls to break down as well. So we'll break down the first full week of bowl season as well. For Ryan Coyle, I am Joe Tansey. Good luck on all your plays, and we will talk to you next week.